All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video as we talk about the 10 49ers who could be headed to the waiver wire later on this summer. And these are guys that are established, so we'll talk about that coming up next. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. And we'll have a couple other sponsors we'll tell you about as well. But first, let's get right into our video. And, the Niners have a pretty deep roster this year. I know there's been a lot of turnover. They've gone into the free agent market. They've made moves. They've had a big draft class. They signed some players after the draft. And I think it's going to be some pretty good competition in 49er camp this summer. Here are the 10 49ers that I think there's a chance could be headed to the waiver wire. These are established 49ers. These are not guys that were signed last week and are going to get cut next week. We're talking about guys who played a significant role in the 49ers either last year or over the last few years. And yet they're going to find themselves, in my opinion, well, I don't know if there's a very good chance that each one of these guys could wind up being cut at the cutdown. Let's go right through it. All right, we first start with Jake Moody. Greg Joseph was signed. Jake Moody was the Niners kicker. The Moody's owed cash, so I think he's got that advantage. If they kick to if they're even at the end of the preseason, I think Jake's going to get the job based on his contract status. But if Greg Joseph outperforms him, and there's reason to believe that Joseph could outperform him, there's other teams that have cut good kickers. Anders Carlson got cut the other day. He's out on the waiver. He's out there on the street if the Niners want to go that direction. So if Moody struggles at all, if there's any inconsistency throughout the summer and the preseason with his new two-step approach as opposed to a three-step approach, I think he's gone. I think there's too many other options. Niners have the battle scars of watching Moody fail in the past, and I just think that I would put, if I had to bet on the Moody Joseph kicking combination or kicking competition, I'll bet on Moody because of the contractual situation that he has where he's owed money, where there's no guaranteed money heading to Greg Joseph. But Joseph could beat out Jake Moody. So Moody's number first significant 49er that could be headed for the waiver wire. Number two, let's go to the running back position. Patrick Taylor Jr. played 13 games for the Niners last year. Got a whole slew of snaps when guys went down late in the year and played well. Looked good. Good special teamer, good guy. Played well from scrimmage, can catch the ball out of the backfield. But the Niners still have Izzy Abaniconda, who's faster, better. Corey Kiner, Abaniconda runs in the 4.3s, or at least did, and is about 220 pounds. I'm a big fan of his talent. I think he's going to bust out in training camp. I think he's going to be a guy that people are going to go, whoa, what about Izzy Abaniconda? There's been very little discussion about him. Corey Kiner, the undrafted free agent from Cincinnati, runs hard. Bobby T said, man, his game is contact balance. This guy was the Mr. Ohio in the Mr. Ohio football his final year of high school in the state of Ohio, coming out of Canton, Ohio. So Corey Kiner, big-time guy once upon a time, had a good career at LSU and Cincinnati, and he's on this roster, or potentially could be, and could kick a guy like Taylor off. And then the third guy, of course, is Jordan James, the rookie running back from Oregon, who I thought looked really good in the minicamp, had a nice little run down the sideline, and he showed some speed and catch the ball out of the backfield. A lot of people feel like Jordan James is the perfect fit for the Niner offense. So, as far as Patrick Taylor, I just think that, he's a good player. And running backs get hurt, so there's always a chance that there'll be injuries and he'll make the roster or practice squad. But I think I would rank him behind Jordan James, behind Corey Kiner, and behind Izzy Abaniconda. And obviously you've got CMC, you got Garendo, you got Juice taking up 3 of the spots, and you may only have 5 or 6 spots. So Patrick Taylor, very easily, even though he's a good player, could be waived at the cutdown. The Niners at tight end have Jake Tongas, Braden Willis, and Ross Dwelly. They're all receiving tight ends, and they also have a guy named Mason Pline. And I just think Pline's better than those guys. Dwelly was signed. I think a lot of people's assumption, because he was re-signed, was that, Ross Dwelly is going to be the Niners, third-string tight end. But I think Mason Pline showed me in the minicamp that he looks better than he looked last summer. He got the red shirt year. He's 6'8". He's super smart. He's got great hands. I think he's going to show this summer in practice and in games. And I'll take Mason Pline over Jake Tongas, Braden Willis, and Ross Dwelly to get that third tight end spot behind Kittle and Farrell. All right, let's talk about the offensive line. This is going to be a really tough one because Brock Purdy's best friend on this team is Nick Zakelj. They were roommates for a number of years. Zakel's, his good buddy. And if you just look at the guaranteed dollars at the offensive line, I mean, the starters are Trent, Barch, Brendel, Pooney, and McKivitz. Those are your 5 starters. You're probably going to keep 4 reserves. Well, Dillard is guaranteed $315,000. That's a lot of money to guarantee somebody to cut them loose. So I think he makes the team as the swing tackle. You have Burford, who's guaranteed $672,000. So I think he's got an inside track at a job. Then you have Hennessy, who's guaranteed $390,000. So I think he's got an inside track at the backup center / guard spot. So that means that Zakelj, who's guaranteed $190,000, is probably going to have to beat out everybody else. And everybody else could include Connor Colby, could include Moss from Colorado State. Both those guys are guaranteed over $100,000 as well. And we haven't even talked about Austin Pleasance, who's guaranteed nothing, but Austin Pleasance looked amazing at the minicamp. And I would be shocked if Austin Pleasance doesn't make this football team. So I think your backup offensive linemen are Pleasance, Dillard, Burford, and Hennessy. And that means Nick Zakelj, I think, is probably going to wind up on the waiver wire at the cut down. I'm sure that's not going to make Brock Purdy happy, but it's life in the NFL. It's a numbers game. So I would say Zakelj very likely could be on the outside looking in. All right, as we switch to the defense, let's tell you about our second sponsor for the video today, and that is Claw-Daddy Arcades. That's right. They're a great follow on the IG at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. And when you stop by, tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. They got a brand new location coming up in Capitola Mall down in the South Bay. They also have another location in the Visalia Mall in the Central Valley. So Claw-Daddy Arcades, big thanks to Claw-Daddy Arcades for supporting the Krueg Show. And thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. All right, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, the 49ers are probably going to take 10 defensive linemen. But one guy who is really opening eyes, I think, in minicamp and OTAs is Sebastian Valdez, the undrafted player from the University of Washington. And if you look at the Niners D-line, Bosa, Jordan Elliott, Alfred Collins, Mikael Williams, C.J. West, Yatir Gross-Matos, Bryce Huff, Evan Anderson. That's 8 right there. Sam Aquinu would be 9. So I think all these guys battle for one spot, possibly Robert Beal, Kevin Givens, Kalia Davis, Sebastian Valdez, Teron Jackson, Jonathan Garvin. And Valdez is guaranteed $185,000, where, Kalia Davis is guaranteed $132,000. But I just think that there's a very good chance that Sebastian Valdez may outplay Kalia Davis, and Kalia Davis may be on the outside looking in. Another guy on the defense that could be gone is Robert Beal. Robert Beal was a day 3 draft choice, and he's a great athlete, tremendous, 6'4", 260, runs sub 4.5. He's exactly what you want athletically. He just hasn't been able to produce or get on the field with any consistency. And the Niners signed a guy last year named Teron Jackson, who's got some twitch, and he's got some ability to rush the passer in that wide 9. So if Teron Jackson has a more productive preseason than Robert Beal, I could see Teron Jackson potentially getting a roster spot. Another guy who could be headed to the waiver wire is Curtis Robinson, the 49ers Walter Payton Man of the Year Award candidate. And if you just look at the numbers as far as some of the guaranteed money, Curtis Robinson has no guaranteed money on his contract. And yet Chaz Surratt, who was brought in by Robert Saleh from the Jets, has $315,000 of guaranteed money. So I think there's a very good chance that Chaz Surratt gets Curtis Robinson's job and Curtis Robinson gets cut. Now, another guy who's in that mix is Stone Blanton, and I think Blanton's going to be very productive. He was guaranteed $92,000 by the 49ers as an undrafted player. Either way, Curtis Robinson is the guy in the crosshairs, and I think there's a very good chance that Robinson winds up cut at the cut down, and Surratt and Blanton, one of those two guys is going to make the team instead of Curtis Robinson. That would be my guess. And the last one's is kind of an interesting one because, as I've said, the 49ers, I think, do care about the financial element of this. And George Odum is guaranteed $3.5 million. Now, the last couple of years, the 49ers have, they guaranteed Isaiah Oliver some money and they cut Deshaun Jameson. They guaranteed Isaac Yiadom some money and they cut Samuel Womack. They cut younger, better players to protect their financial investment. And they may wind up doing the same thing here. If you look at the safety, deal, it's Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa are probably your starters. Mustafa's probably going to start the year hurt, so we won't count him. So you have Jair Brown. You're probably going to keep 4 safeties. Jair Brown, Richie Grant, Jason Pinnock, and then there's an awful lot of talk that the 49ers love Marquise Siegel. Siegel runs in the 4-3s. He's very, very smart between the ears. They think he's a guy who can play the deep middle and play from scrimmage and not be solely a special teamer. And you also have Jalen Mahoney. And you have a very deep group of corners. If you count the corners that are going to be on this team, you get Darrell Luter, Trey Brown. Obviously you've got Diamador Lenore. You've got Renardo Green. You've got Upton Stout. So that's 5 right there. Then you have Jacob Robinson, Derek Canteen. There's a number of corners. Saron Neal is guaranteed $2.25 million. So the Niners very easily, most teams go with 10 defensive backs. That could either be, most time it's 5 corners, 5 safeties. The 49ers, I think, might go 6 corners and 4 safeties. And if they do, it's Brown, Grant, Pinnock, and then either Odum or Siegel. And Odom's a really good special teamer, but they really like Marquise Siegel, and they think Siegel's got an ability to start and play from scrimmage. So I think George Odum could be on the waiver wire, despite the fact that the 49ers owe him, $3.5 million. So those are the 10 guys that are established 49ers that could be headed to the waiver wire at the end of the summer. Once again, we'll review the list here. Jake Moody, Patrick Taylor Jr., Jake Tongas, Braden Willis, and Ross Dwelly, Nick Sikel, Kalia Davis, Robert Beal, Curtis Robinson, and George Odum. There's a lot of good 49ers on that list. There's a lot of good talent on that list. I would say almost every single one of those guys is going to find a new home around the NFL somewhere. But that's, for people saying, the 49ers roster's down. Really? They may wind up cutting 10 players that were, I don't want to say significant players for them, but Odum clearly was a special teams ace. And a lot of these guys played significantly. Patrick Taylor played. Moody was their kicker. So there you go. 10 49ers who could be headed for the waiver wire. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades. And thanks to you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.